And welcome to the webinar, Debunking Recruiting Myths, Secrets to Securing Top Talents. This session is being recorded and we will share the link afterwards via email. I'd also like to give many thanks to our host, Paylocity, and specifically Will Tucker for helping make this session happen. You can receive SHRM and HRCI recertification credits for your attendance today. We will be sharing the codes at the end of the session. We'll have a slide up on the screen. You can capture those codes for your recertification. Also, during the session, feel free to put your questions into the chat or QA. We'll be monitoring both throughout, and we'll hope to address your questions during or after the session. My name is Jason Cutchall. I lead the human capital consulting practice at Steelbridge Consulting. I'm delighted to co-sponsor this topic today with Paylocity. A little about Steelbridge. Steelbridge Human Capital Consulting. We help our clients transform their HR strategy, organization, people, process, and technology to deliver better results to the business. We are a Paylocity services partner, and we help our clients implement, extend, and optimize Paylocity. We also are experts in a number of topics in the human capital area. One of our focus areas is helping clients with talent management and talent acquisition challenges, which brings us to our topic in today's speaker. I am delighted to introduce Mark Wojcik from East Park Avenue Talent Consulting. He's a trusted friend and partner who's an expert at helping clients improve their recruiting teams and overall recruiting results. For over 14 years, he's been helping clients attract, assess, engage, and secure top talent. Mark has a proven track record building recruitment machines with companies of all sizes and industries. Mark, welcome.
What do you mean you're taking another offer? You're kidding. I thought you loved it here. But there was only a week. What do you mean there was no communication? There was no feedback? Oh, come on. What can we do? Are you leaving a bad review on Glassdoor? Give me a break. Oh my gosh. Oh, we're live. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. Jason, thanks for the intro. Will, appreciate Paylocity having us on here. I'm Mark Wojcik, founder and president of East Park Avenue. Guys, I've been in the industry a long time. In the recruiting and staffing industry is where I started my career. And what we learned in the recruiting and staffing industry, almost a decade working with a major headhunting firm here in Charlotte, is that many companies utilize third-party resources like staffing and recruiting agencies as a necessary evil. Many times what we'd find and getting those phone calls with a new requisition and hanging up the phone with a possible customer and saying, you know what, I can't believe that they're going to pay us $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 to fill this one vacancy. When, man, if they just gave us a day or two in their office to show them how to do the work and gave them the tools, gave them a bit of training, gave them a roadmap and some expertise, they could do it on their own. And so many times for small and mid-sized businesses, we found that it was a crutch. Recruiting and talent acquisition was a huge challenge, a huge problem. There's many reasons why, but during 2020 COVID times, I personally saw an opportunity to branch out and build a business that empowers organizations from the inside out, empowers their talent acquisition to be able to hire the best and the brightest seamlessly, consistently, and organically without having to leverage third-party resources time and time again. So in 2020, started recruiting, training, and consulting organization called East Park Avenue. And what we do is we build high-performing recruitment machines for individuals. And our flagship training program is called Recruiter Pro Training. It's been delivered to over 250 individuals, from recruiters, HR professionals, and frontline department leaders. And we're going to show you a little bit of a sneak peek of that training series today. So everything that we're going to be talking about, if you go to the next slide, Daniel, everything that we're going to be talking about here today is putting yourself in the shoes as the recruiter. I'm sure many of your businesses of all different shapes and sizes, And if you're an HR professional in a small or mid-sized business, you wear hundreds of different hats. So empathize with your day-to-day and week-to-week routine. The worst thing you want to hear is on a Friday afternoon that somebody in a key department has just resigned. It's a terrible thing. You think you're leaving early on a Friday, and now you're trying to pick up the pieces and figure out, what are we going to do to backfill this opportunity? Okay. So first, we're going to show you some stats, and we have a poll here because there's many reasons why companies struggle with recruiting and hiring on a consistent basis. There's many reasons, but we want to start with a polling and get the pulse of the community that's in this webinar of where you feel like the most of the percentage of people withdraw themselves from an interview or a recruiting and hiring life cycle. Okay, take your time to fill out this poll question here. What's the percentage of candidates that withdraw themselves from consideration due to poor communication? And poor communication can be in a variety of different ways. Of course, it's the manner in which you talk to somebody, but it could be the lack of communication altogether. Okay, it could be misinformation or inaccurate information. It could be improper expectations. One person saying one thing, the other person saying another. A job description saying one thing, and managers in the interview saying another. But poor communication is one of the main reasons why it's a challenge for companies to recruit. There's a stat we'll talk about later, but nearly a third of candidates that are deemed hireable are lost during the recruiting and hiring life cycle. Nearly a third in the US alone. Many times what we have to do is encourage our clients to look at themselves in the mirror. So make no mistake, guys, this is not about making you feel bad or making you look in the mirror and say, oh, we should be better at this, but giving you education. So we're about finished with the poll here. It looks like the majority is rating at, we see 44% on the bracket of 11 to 20%. What's the percentage of candidates that withdraw themselves from consideration due to poor communication? And folks, this was taken from SHRM. This is real studies, but the answer is 47%, a staggering nearly half of the candidates who withdraw themselves from consideration in a recruiting and hiring life cycle cite poor communication. Let that sink in for a little bit. Think back to the times we've had a difficult search, or maybe you're in manufacturing and industrial services and you're really struggling with finding a volume of people. And think of the times when you say, man, there's no one out there. Oh, we just can't find the right people. We just can't find anyone. Is that really the case? Or is it maybe that some folks have pulled themselves out of consideration because of the fact that there were inefficiencies and improper behavior within the recruiting department of your organization? Okay, some other stats here. 36% withdraw to the length of the interview process. Folks, we're going to show you a model later on in the session today that you can take into your company and make it your own. Okay, this helps you to tighten the timeline for talent. And it helps you to control the hiring life cycle so that 6, 7, 8, 9 interviews down the line, we're not stringing candidates along that maybe could have been validated or dispositioned before you wasted a bunch of high employees' time, expensive employee time. The biggest stat here that I wanted you all to take away on this webinar is that over 1 in 6 job offers in the US are rejected. Incredible. At every level, from hourly workforce all the way up to executives, where these stats were taken from, over 1 in 6 job offers in the US are rejected. And when we saw these things in the agency recruiting and staffing world, this is one of the many reasons why it promoted me to start a business that helps organizations to train their people from the inside out and have high-performing recruitment machines to consistently hire time and time again. So we'll give you a quick overview of the agenda for the day, okay? And again, Recruiter Pro Training is our flagship training series, and it's about a 12-module series from foundations of recruitment all the way up to the strategies of closing and finding and closing high-end executive level professionals. We're going to have a snapshot today of recruiting and how it is a sales component, how candidates lie, and it's potentially your company's fault, and how to tighten the timeline for talent, and then ultimately the modules of yes, no, and maybe. Okay, so feel free to ask questions in the chat. First, though, we're going to cover what East Park Avenue calls the 5 Ps of recruiting. These are the methodologies and philosophies that are all throughout Recruiter Pro training, and would encourage you to take away and bring into your organization as you are recruiting professionals. Okay. Number one of the 5 Ps of recruiting is prioritization. A lot of companies talk about how talent is the most important thing. Their people are the most important thing to their business, but then they forget to act on it. Deadlines, other responsibilities, board meetings, family obligations. We're all busy. We're all busy. But real recruiting professionals that take this seriously will prioritize hiring and recruiting top talent as a function of most important other than anything else on their list. Number 2 of the 5 Ps is preparation. Okay, knowing what to look for, knowing where to find it, knowing how to attract it, knowing how to engage the people, knowing how to assess the people, and ultimately how to secure them. Having a roadmap and a plan ahead of time and being prepared for it, also with what to say, how to say it, and what to respond if asked a question by candidates is important. Number three is proactivity. Okay, going out and finding top talent and grabbing it. Don't wait for it to come to you. That is reactive activity. Proactive is going out and grabbing it. Okay. Number 4 of the 5 Ps is presence. The candidates, the hiring managers, the recruits will tell you what you need to know. They will give you the information, but are you present? We get it. Multitasking, HR professionals many times are doing a lot of different things at the same time. But slowing down and having presence when you're engaging in a recruiting campaign or you're interviewing candidates will allow you to be that much more successful. And last but not least is practice. Look, the best headhunters in the world do this stuff all day, every single day. We're not asking you to do that. We're not encouraging you to do that, but we're encouraging you to have the expectations for yourself on the amount of practice that you put in. If you're doing this recruiting or hiring exercise once or twice a year, well, you shouldn't have the expectations that you're going to be acquiring and identifying the top talent. So practice makes perfect. And the more you try these philosophies that we'll be teaching you now, the better and simpler that they're going to get and the better talent that you're going to find. So the first real session that we're going to be looking at is recruitment and how it requires a sales effort. Folks get very uncomfortable in our training programs when we talk about sales. Many HR leaders or even department leaders get uncomfortable when they hear sales. They think of salesiness. They think of money-hungry people that are sleazy or slimy, or it's uncomfortable, or it's cold calls. It makes people uncomfortable. But make no mistake, recruiting does require a sales effort. The way that we look at sales in recruitment is by being a good listener. Okay, offering solutions, bringing value, solving problems, okay, showing empathy. That is the salesmanship that we encourage in recruitment. It's very difficult for many companies to recruit when all they're doing is something called feature dumping. Barking and barking all the great things about their company, albeit very warranted. It's like trying to sell a Corvette to a family of 5. It doesn't matter how great the engine is, or how beautiful the interior leather is, or how fast this thing can go on the highway. If you don't know the real motivation for the buyer, you can't possibly sell the features. You can't sell the benefits. Okay, so we use this example of car sales because I think we've all been on a car lot at some point in the past, where we've seen somebody who's trying to work their magic to get a sale, get a deal done to their own agenda. Candidates can sense this, folks. Candidates can sense when you, the frontline recruiter, are operating with something in your own initiative, your own agenda, trying to put that Corvette, because it's the most expensive car on the lot, down the throat of the family of 5. It just doesn't fit. So the lesson here in being a good salesperson is not to feature dump. is to listen first and foremost and show empathy. Okay. And so we've got a couple tools here, 3 different steps that you can do instead of feature dumping all the great things about your job, about your company, about the opportunity. We encourage you to, number 1, uncover the real motivation of the person you're engaging with. Why are they even talking to you in the first place? Why did they respond to your message? Why are they having a dialogue with you? Why did they come across town and meet with you? There's some real reason behind it. And we'll get to later what red flags look like and real motivation versus red flags. But uncovering the true motivation is absolutely critical to all facets of the recruiting life cycle. All right. Number 2, as a frontline recruiter, which we're all adopting today, is you have to hook that person after you understand their motivation. Once you get what they're trying to go for, then you can put features in front of how it matches. If they don't like their environment, okay, now we can talk about why your environment's so great. If they struggle with the manager in the past, okay, great. Now we can come over the top and talk about how great the management team is. Number 3 on this, folks, as recruiters that we're all acknowledging we are today, is to provide exceptional customer service. People want to feel valued. People want to feel wanted. People of all levels want to feel appreciated. They want to feel treated uniquely, not like a number. Okay. If you're on this webinar, it probably means you work for a small or mid-sized business. And even enterprise businesses could do this too, but they have so many people and so much volume. With small and mid-sized companies, you have an opportunity and a little bit more bandwidth to treat people with exceptional customer service, red carpet treatment, and white glove service. And last but not least, well, it's the same thing as number 1, guys. You have to tie everything in the recruiting life cycle, or the sales cycle, if you will, back to the candidate or the recruit's initial motivation. The motivation is everything, because when you get to the finish line, if you haven't truly understood this individual's true motivation, either for making a change or for inquiring into your job in the first place, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them to a job that's paying more, or you're going to lose them to a job that they don't even have because they just don't want to move forward with your company. Okay. Motivation is everything. All right. So let's look at these these key concepts, and then we'll look at a couple of red flag opportunities. This should be fun for another poll question next, but recruiting is a quest for information. Okay. You can't sell to what you don't know. You can't give features to something that you don't understand how it correlates with their life. It's like selling a Corvette to a family of 5. It's like trying to sell the best steak in the world to a vegetarian. If you don't know what triggers them, you're not going to know what to give them. Okay. So asking questions will help you to get that information to where you can be a good recruiter, a good salesperson on the back end. Number 2, what we'll talk about here as a key concept is use that motivation, remind them of why they got involved in this recruiting process to begin with. It doesn't matter what it is, but always come back to it. Always refresh it in their mind to help them remember why they're doing this in the first place. Folks, it's really hard for human beings to make decisions. It's really hard for human beings to change jobs. It's really hard for human beings to break up. Think about it from a relationship standpoint. Even the worst relationships you've been in, it's probably been hard to break up. Imagine it when you're talking about your livelihood, your money, your family on the line. It's hard. Use that motivation and continue to push it. And the last but not least on this key concept is you got to differentiate as a recruiter between realistic motivation and red flags. So there's a couple options down here at the bottom of some of the realistic motivators we see in the recruiting industry. Okay. And then also some of the red flags in the recruiting industry. Seeking new experiences that a candidate has never been through before, a new industry, new tools, new technology, new concepts that they never had exposure to. If you look at it from the other angle of what they're leaving, what they're running away from is poor working conditions. Maybe they've been in a setting that doesn't have climate control facilities. Maybe they've been in a setting where the commute's too far. Maybe they've been in a setting where the management team is toxic. Okay. And going to something with better working conditions is a realistic motivator, right? On the red flag side, we're looking at strictly money or history of poor judgment. History of poor judgment we'll start with, because that's people making decisions for their career that were ill-advised. What were they thinking? Are they really considering what their future holds? Are they making decisions on a snap whim or based alone on money? Now, we have an asterisk here on strictly money because it can be a realistic motivator if and only if it's for the reasons of being passed up on a promotion, maybe being missed on a budget or on a bonus because the company's financial situation is struggling. Maybe they've been in the same role for 10 years and haven't been given any pay increases. They're not seeing that performance merit paying off. So money can be either way. So we'll look at next here, moving into the second chapter of the session. Candidates lie, and it's your fault. This is shocking to some people, and some folks in our training program get a little bit gun shy of it. But I have a good example that maybe will give you a little bit more context to what I mean. Okay, interview is an investigation, right? And we're kind of skipping ahead from recruitment to purely the interview setting. So I'll give you a story about little Mark. Little Mark loved video games, loved Nintendo, Super Mario, Zelda, Mario Kart, you name it. Loved video games. I was so focused and locked in on video games, I couldn't think of anything else. I didn't want to think of anything else. But I had chores. I had chores to do as a little boy. And my mom was very, very focused on one particular chore. And it was a big sticking point because she's a very neat person. She's very OCD. So at a young age, I would be playing video games and my mom would come ask me about my chores. And she'd say, hey, Mark, hey, did you clean your room? And I'd be gaming away, not thinking about what she said. Yeah, gaming away. Mark, did you clean your room? Yeah, Mom. All the while I'm gaming away, knowing that my bedroom upstairs looked a bit like this. Okay. I don't intend to lie to my mother. I love my mom. Even as a little boy, I didn't intend to lie. I knew I was telling a dishonest statement, but I knew that I would get to cleaning the room at some point when it was convenient for me. I knew I would get around to tidying up my clothes when it was convenient for me because I didn't want to deal with it. I was focused on my video game. I didn't want to think about cleaning my room. So I diffused the situation by just saying, yeah, Mom. Okay. Of course, over time, my mom caught on that I was doing this. But many times we see the parallels in interviews too, folks, where recruiters or HR professionals can actually be harming themselves by feeding the answers to the candidates. Okay. Of course, we want to make the right hire. Of course, we're hoping that the person on the other side of the table or the other side of the screen has the skills that our management team needs. But if we, based on the type of questions that we ask, we could be giving them permission to tell a lie. They don't want to have confrontation. They don't want tension. They don't want frustration. The candidates are hoping for an offer they can't refuse. Many times they're thinking, man, if I can just get past this gatekeeper, if I can just get past this one question, then maybe I'll have that opportunity. The technology experience, I'll figure that out. I'll YouTube that. I'll Google it. I'll figure it out. But folks, the way that you ask questions matters, okay? So we encourage our clients to follow these guidelines and we'll walk through them now. Now take a look at these and notice the difference in the green and the red. On the left side is what we call open-ended questions, okay? Some of this might sound very elementary or very, very mainstream to some, but open-ended questions guarantee that a response has to be of something substance. I can't brush my mom as a little boy. I can't brush my mom off my shoulder when she asks me a who, what, when, where, why, how question. I can't just say yeah to a question like that, okay? But when she said, did you clean your room? Well, it gave me the permission to kind of fib a little bit because it wasn't convenient for me to give the answer that was truthful, right? Now, had she said something to the effect of, what would I see if I went up to your bedroom, Mark? What would I see if I went up to your bedroom? Now, it really puts me into a spot in a way that we can, as recruiters, can put our candidates into a spot where they have to get us real context, real information, okay? This will give you a well-rounded answer. And we'll show you a couple examples here as well. Some might apply to your business, okay? On the left side, who do you work with on a daily basis? Versus, do you work directly for the CFO? If I'm the candidate and I'm hearing that question, it sounds like it's probably advantageous that I work directly for the CFO of the company. Maybe I should selectively be dishonest in my response to that. Yeah, oh yeah, I work for the CFO. Yeah, absolutely. CFO, love him. Great guy. Okay. Who do you work with on a daily basis? Now I have to intentionally lie. And it's really, really difficult to do that. Most people are not that dishonest. Okay. So here's another example. What programming languages are you familiar with? Versus, have you used JavaScript before? Okay. On the right side, we're giving the permission. We're acknowledging that that's a critical function of this job. So the candidate might be a little bit shady with their response. Here's another one. Could you manage a team? Versus, how do you display strong management skills? Could you manage a team? Versus, how do you display strong management skills? This starts a discussion, folks. And as recruiters, remember, there's a quest for information. We want to get as much detail as we can that'll help us shape and paint the picture for us, okay? Also, when you ask closed-ended questions, could you, will you, can you, it lowers your status as a recruiter. It's almost as if you're asking permission to dig deeper. Could you manage a team? It's almost as if you're below this individual. So for some folks that have a lot of confidence, this shouldn't be an issue, shouldn't be a problem. But for those that recruiting and hiring related activities a little bit more uncomfortable to you, or it doesn't come in your nature, practicing these direct questions with open-ended responses should give you a sense of confidence and ultimately position you and your posture at a higher level of status, okay? So moving on from candidates and how they lie, we want to focus on the timeline, okay? You've heard the phrase, time kills all deals. Well, it's absolutely true in hiring and recruiting, okay? So we have a model for you here called Tighten the Timeline for Talent. It's where we encourage organizations to have a very tight, seamless, systematic, repeatable hiring process, okay? We've all been in this situation before, me included, where we think we got it buttoned up with a candidate, the top candidate. Management's happy, leadership's happy. We think we're buttoned up, okay? They've been through a few rounds of interviews. They've gotten to the final stage, and we feel really good. We're Thursday or Friday before a weekend. Matter of fact, it's a long weekend. It's Labor Day, or maybe it's Thanksgiving, okay? Friday rolls around, Saturday rolls around, Sunday rolls around. Then you realize there's a SHRM conference on Monday. And so on Monday and Tuesday, you're away, you're busy, you're networking, and you're learning at a SHRM conference. So it's Wednesday or Thursday, then you decide to reconnect with management and say, hey, what are we going to do with candidate A? We're going to give them an offer. Where are we at? A couple of days of back and forth with management. Then you finally work out this offer for candidate A, and you pick up the phone to make the call to tell the great news. Everybody should be excited, right? Everybody should be excited. And when you pick up the phone to call this person, you can't believe what they're saying. What, you took another job? Wait, you decided to remove yourself from consideration? Wait, you got a counteroffer? Folks, the top headhunters in the world do this because their livelihood depends on it. They're working 100% commission. So it's natural that their mindset is to focus on getting the deal done. Okay. Sometimes there's a little bit of a tightrope walk between the agency recruiters and conscience of getting the deal done versus getting the deal done right. Okay. You as internal HR recruiters or internal HR practitioners or department managers, you have the opportunity to do it right way every time, but incorporating some of the sense of urgency that the top headhunters use. Okay. And we encourage you to take control of your hiring life cycle. Mark, okay, that's easier said than done, man. You don't know the leadership team at my company. I can't ever get them on the phone. I can't ever pin them down to get feedback on a candidate. I'm sure we've all been there. Okay. I'm sure we've all been there. And this is why it's so important to have a model that we're going to give to you here that you can incorporate into your own company. So that before you get to that 11th hour stage where offers are pending and candidates are wanting feedback and they want to move forward and they've got a competing offer, we don't find ourselves in this tight bind of trying to rapid fire the way through. Instead, if it's clear and present on the front end, everybody's bought into the process. And therefore, there's accountability on the management or the director level to get approval or get compensation banded, okay? So this model we'll show you here is pretty simple, right? It generally always starts out with the vacancy, okay? There's an opening, whether the opening is a brand new job or the opening is a backfill, okay? It starts somewhere. Before you as an HR person or a frontline recruiter is lifting a finger, and I mean it. No, let's get the posting up. No, like, oh, well, let's get the word out there. Oh, let's put something in the break room. We encourage you to go to step 2. And that's have a formal discovery meeting. Discovery is the term used in the industry to decipher and download on exactly the requirements of the job, more so than just the requirements, but the understanding of the technical nature. If you're in the business of recruiting engineers or IT people or accounting professionals, financial, stuff is complex. It's very complex. A lot of acronyms, okay, a lot of different tools. We need to understand what that means so that we can talk about it as intelligent as the technical experts. And that's the role of discovery. This is also where we're formalizing the interview phases and interview stages and driving for accountability with the people that are the hiring managers, right? And once that discovery has happened, and again, formal in-person meeting, not a 10-minute phone call and here's the job description, then you start the outreach. Networking within the organization, posting it on the web, sending it out to Facebook, posting it internally in other channels, all right? Pinning up something for an internal referral in the break room, talking to people in the hallway over and over again. Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Talking to folks in your personal life, in your personal networks. Okay, now the outreach has started. We want to build a talent web on each recruiting campaign. As recruiters, you are the keeper of this talent web. And then number 4 on the first phases of tightening the timeline is the actual engagement. When you get people live into a conversation, responding to your messages, responding on email, having phone calls, okay? Distinct different phases of this. And from engagement, it leads us to the commitment, getting buy-in from an individual to come in and meet with you, getting them and convincing them, persistency and persuading them to come across town and sit down for an hour and a half with your team, right? That's why this is the red area. It's called the red zone because it's the most important area. And again, we encourage you to fit it to your organization, what suits your structure best. But from the commitment phase, we move on to the next phase, which is the actual interview phase. Okay. We gave you some tips on that earlier, but the interview phase, make no mistake, is another way of highlighting your company. Okay. It's another way of understanding motivation, driving motivation. Okay. It's another way of understanding not only can the person do the job and are they committed to it, but really highlighting the company's long-term features. Okay, and besides the interview, then we would move on to The feedback and the scheduling. There's an asterisk here because it depends on the number of interviews that you have. And we encourage you to have specific timelines after the interview to the feedback and the scheduling. 24, 48, 72 hours ideally. Again, 5 P's of recruitment. Prioritize. Prioritize. Should be no reason where we go for 3, 4, 5 days and we still don't have feedback. Not only does it hurt your candidate life cycle, it hurts your brand in the marketplace. Look on Glassdoor and see how many of the responses on bad rated companies are because they never got feedback or they never got a response. Companies ghost too, right? Candidate ghosting is a thing, but companies ghost too, and it's a bad practice and it'll hurt your brand for the future. After the feedback and the scheduling, we move to the actual closing phase, okay? Landing the plane, overcoming any of the objections, identifying what other opportunities are pending, okay? And really how the candidate might respond if given an offer, which is the next stage. The offer needs to be articulated, vetted, approved, okay, way prior to getting to this stage, so that it helps to guarantee that there is an actual acceptance. When the offer is accepted, we want everybody to be high-fiving. We want everybody to be happy and excited. And we're walking down this yellow brick road together, okay? Again, small and mid-sized businesses, we hope that you have the bandwidth to pick up the phone and deliver an offer over the phone. Use your personality. Be enthusiastic. Be excited. This is something exceptional. You're giving a career opportunity to somebody. You increase the likelihood of acceptance if you deliver an offer verbally. And next is the onboarding phase. We're still interviewing here, folks. We're still vetting and measuring motivation at the onboarding phase. Okay, we're still evaluating the candidate at this point in time, but so are they evaluating you. Most turnover happens within the first 90 days, and it's usually because of poor expectations, communication, improper setting of the stage of what's to come, okay? Not having the tools or the tech or the office even set up. And the last part's on you is retention, okay? The best recruiting tool that you could ever have is good retention strategy. The best recruiting tool that you could ever have is a good retention strategy. Keep the good people happy, give them trajectory and what to look for. All right, last and not least that we're going to look at is the module for yes, no, and maybe. And this philosophy that we encourage with all of our clients, and we encourage you to take this model away today. It's a philosophy that in the recruiting and hiring process, there's no such thing as a maybe. Okay, going back to time killing all deals. Maybe is a deflection. Maybe is a deterrent. Maybe crushes the timeline for talent. It's either yes or a no. And if it is a maybe, well, what do we need to do to get it to a yes or a no? What do we need to do to get it to a yes or a no? Okay. Oh, it's another interview. Okay. So assuming that interview goes well, then what? Is it a yes or a no? Guys, we can't be in the business of just cycling people through these interview process like a turnstile and just hoping that magically something's going to bump you on the head and say, oh, all right, we like them. How many times have you heard this? Oh, let me think on it. Let me sleep on it. Because it's like magical recruiting fairy is going to visit you in the middle of the night or visit your management team in the middle of the night. Oh, give me the weekend to think about it. Are you really going to take 48 hours over the weekend to think about this person? What can we do right now to decide yes or no? There's nothing worse than wasting more time on somebody who isn't a fit. Studies show that it's better, in fact, to hire somebody. It's better, in fact, to not hire anybody at all rather than fill the position with somebody who is a bad fit. A bad hire costs companies much more than the business impact of having a vacancy in their position. Okay. So if it's a no, let's get there quick. If it's a maybe, let's work our way to yes or no. All right. And so here's a model, because many times we find that HR professionals in small and mid-sized businesses, they struggle with that kind of nudging their hiring managers or their leadership team across the finish line. And short of it being a perfect candidate, which there is no such thing. Oh, guess what? There's not such thing as a perfect job either, or a perfect company, right? So we're making educated guesses a little bit in this process. But this model is going to help you to encourage your team to make data-driven decisions. So if your company already has a rating system for candidates, that's great. That's awesome. But I would question you rhetorically is everybody using it at every phase of the recruiting life cycle? Does the leadership team know about it? Are we all rating people the same way, in the same manner? Or is the final interview, well, they don't need to do that because it's the executive team? Folks, we need to have key data-driven decisions. Your gut is important. A gut check is crucial. Okay, using your gut is very good to determine if somebody's motivated or not a little bit. But your own personal opinion about candidates doesn't help them to get across the finish line, because your personal opinions, the recruiter's personal opinion, may differ from the leadership team and their personal opinions. So here's a kind of just a generic model of the key job attributes: experience, education, tech skills. Your company might be a little bit different. You may put more weight or more value on other things besides potential or, long term. Some companies I've seen, they do it where, it's long term value, promotability. Some folks will do that. Some folks don't care about education at all, depending on the position. Okay. Some folks might value like additional training over other things. But again, create this ahead of time so that when you're evaluating candidates, you have something to rate them with. And then when talking to other people, you all can make sound decisions together. So we encourage creating personas. Okay. Creating personas are hypothetical candidates that you create ahead of time in that discovery period. Okay. Before any recruiting starts, sit down with your leadership team and create personas so that everybody sees that, hey, these are 4 different hypothetical candidates, but all 4 of these hypothetical candidates are great in their own ways. Alex and Betsy are totally different from an education standpoint and from a potential standpoint. Carson and David are totally different from an experience standpoint and a personality standpoint. But we all agree that the people with these individual attributes, we could hire them. We could hire them. They fit. So that when you meet candidates and you have debrief sessions with your leadership team, you can compare the candidate you meet with some of the personas that you've agreed with your leadership team already. Okay. This gets a bit complex for some folks, but I want you to take it and make it your own. Okay. Candidate A, candidate B, candidate C. They all have different levels of tech skills. They all have different levels of education. They all have different personalities. They all have different levels of knowledge and experience. Okay, great. At what point is it not considered a good fit, right? If we agree that candidate A, B, and C are all matches that we could hire, fit your candidates that you meet into one of those buckets. And it makes the debriefing and the decision-making with your leadership team so much easier and so much quicker. So 4 modules for you all. And I want to take these models. Again, I encourage you to make them your own, but just to revisit what we talked about, recruiting is a sales function. It's also a customer service job. Okay. And the better your customer service is and the better your salespersonship is, the better results that you're going to see with acceptances and moving candidates through the life cycle. And number 2, we talked a lot about the interviewing questioning and how that potentially you could be leading people into the wrong answer. Number 3, tightening the timeline. Folks, good talent doesn't wait around, and they're not going to be patient. Okay. And they're not going to sit back and accept that it's not, you don't have any feedback for them and it's been 2 weeks. Right. So treat it as a priority. Right. And then last but not least, is have data-driven decisions for making hiring decisions. Yes, no, or maybe. There is no such thing as maybe, right? We encourage you to have a rating system or a ranking system or even hypothetical candidate personas to where we could determine if somebody is or isn't a good fit, right? Thank you guys. This was a great webinar, and I appreciate you being a part of it. I hope that you took away something of value that you can incorporate into your own business or make recruiting a little bit easier for you or your team. We have a couple questions. We want to open it up for questions to the group. We've been monitoring this in the chat line. I think that the folks from SteelBridge have been looking at this in the chat line. We see a number of different. Oh, here's one. Okay. So, how do I hold my teammate? How do I hold my teammates accountable to recruitment? That's a good question. How do I hold my candidate? How do I hold my teammates accountable for recruitment? I'd say it goes back to the 5 Ps of recruitment and really treating it as a priority. Okay. And again, before starting a recruitment campaign, sitting down with your team and leadership and explaining the importance of quick response times and being present, being devoted and dedicated to the recruiting lifecycle and their portion of the recruiting lifecycle before this gets started. So therefore you can remind them if things do get off the rails, that you can remind them, hey, we agreed to this before we kicked off this recruiting campaign. Always helps to do things before the recruiting campaign starts, okay? Always important, do it before. I always tell people that an hour on the front end of a recruiting campaign for preparation, one of the 5 Ps of recruitment, an hour on the front end can save you more than 10 hours on the back end. So which is it? Especially with those hiring managers or those leadership. I sent you the job description, figure it out. I don't have time for discovery. Well, maybe I don't have the tools that I need to go out and recruit for your position. So I'd really like to sit down with you and go through discovery. I hope that helps. I hope that helps. Here's another one. So when should we hire an in-house recruiter? That's a great question. And it just depends on your business and its hiring needs. Okay. And the growth goals that you have when you need to hire an in-house recruiter. Generally, we say somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 12 positions a year, new positions. If you have anywhere from 7 or more positions a year outside of turnover, it's advantageous to have a corporate recruiter, having an in-house recruiter. Okay. Some might argue differently, and HR practitioners or SHRM professionals might say something a little bit might say something a little bit different. But we encourage an in-house recruiter to build out the talent network, okay, and have a place to start, even if there's not active vacancies, having people to potentially turn to when there are vacancies, so you're not starting from scratch and starting from square one. Okay. Also, that recruiter can be doing a lot of things from a brand perspective, trade shows, getting involved with local universities and colleges, tech schools, doing a lot with community involvement or nonprofits or churches, spreading the word about the brand and talking in general about career opportunities within the company. Any more questions? Any more questions? I want to see how we can incorporate this into the regular daily life. Is always a focus that any training content is only as good as its usage. So I would encourage you all to feel free to reach out anytime. If you have a scenario and you just want to talk through it, you're not sure how to handle it, or you see a repeated roadblock or repeated issues in the recruiting life cycle that you feel a bit stuck on, let's have a conversation. Happy to guide you through it and maybe give you some nuggets or even just a little bit of confidence that you can take back to your leadership team. So I think without any other questions or further ado, we'll switch over to the we got one other question here. How to ensure that the desired attributes defined by leadership and management are effectively put into practice at the recruiting level. Wow, that was astute. That was a question from somebody who must be a recruiter. How do you ensure the desired attributes defined by leadership and management are effectively put into practice at the recruiting level? Wow. Wow. Yeah, because I think where you're going with this is a lot of people talk about what they want. A lot of leadership, a lot of people, hiring managers, they talk about what they want and what they're open to, what they're willing to consider. But then when it comes down to the brass tacks of providing candidates, presenting candidates, like they're getting turned away is maybe the question. But how to ensure the desired attributes defined by leadership are effectively put into practice at the recruiting level. I always like to ask for examples. I've always been, me personally, from a recruiting standpoint, is I need real examples. Okay. So when you say you're looking for a go-getter, okay, when we say we're looking for somebody who's ready to hit the ground running, right? All these random phrases that get used over and over again. It's so redundant and really don't mean anything the same from one person to the next. I always like to ask for examples. Okay, so I see this desired attribute you have, Mr. and Mrs. Leadership, and you said you're looking for a go-getter. You say you're looking for somebody who can hit the ground running. You say you're looking for somebody who's got a good personality, who's outgoing, who's bubbly. What do you mean by that? Can you give me an example of what that might look like in our world? Can you give me an example of where you've seen that? Maybe somebody else within the organization who exhibits those type of attributes. You know, a lot of times we see this where, you know, we want somebody with 10 years of experience. This is where we educate our clients that, you know, where did you come up with 10 years of experience? My response to that might be is, well, what does somebody with 9 years experience not have? What does somebody, okay, help me understand. What does somebody with 8 years of experience not have? What's missing from somebody with 7 years of experience? Okay, a lot of what we do as recruiters is gain flexibility, folks, gaining flexibility. So I hope that helps. I always ask for specific examples and then play it back to them. So if I find somebody who's done bing, bang, boom, A, B, C, that's somebody we want to consider, correct? Okay, got it. That way we're speaking the same language. So much ambiguity and challenges in companies' recruitment is the misinterpretation of information throughout the recruiting and hiring life cycle. Okay? So ask for an example. Any other questions? That was a good one. Message me on the side if you have any other questions as well. Happy to answer those. But Will, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. Awesome job. Just want to take this last minute and thank everyone for their attendance and their participation. And Mark and Steelbridge, Jason, Daniel, thank you all for your participation. Look out for an email from us probably this afternoon or maybe first thing tomorrow. We want to send you some resources, some of the models that Mark talked about. We want to send that out to you all so you can, you know, keep it top of mind. And also going to send out a complimentary ebook from Paylocity that describes just some ways that you can use technology and tools to enhance the candidate experience, things like applicant tracking system, career page builders, video interview software, scheduling software, two-way text communication platform, background check tools, onboarding software. You know, now you've got the knowledge, you have the tools and the technology to implement it. So, you know, we want you to be totally well-rounded and, you know, go out and find some go-getters. So
Go get it.
we appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you.